What I have learned is that first, the same thing that we all feel is that uneasy sense that something is not right and has not been for quite some time. The absence of God is what it is. He can interact with creation and be more present than he was present during the creation of the earth. During the flood of Noah's tale he was present as well, but intentionally misinterpreted because of angry survivors who wrongly blamed God for bringing that event down on them when he actually was trying to warn them. In the beginning, there was nothing. The primordial void. Then within the void there was a voice, that spoke, and its words were,
"Let there be light."
Then from the voidless space there came a thunderous sound within the darkness that was the word, and that word was. Well, people still wonder what happened before the earth was created, so I shall recount this tale with some dramatized bravado. This is the tale of the heavens before creation, during the creation of the angels. We go back before the creation of the earth, where the congregation of heaven stands debating the fundamentals of the principalities and their purposes. In other words, the very forces of the fabrics of creation were clashing and merging in what you could call the expansion era of creation. Our debates were forging the fabrics of reality. Many angels were in discussion with each other in what can be described as a great enlightenment. One angel would display the core element of their essence, and all would gaze upon the reaction that angel's presence would have upon those present within the pooling light of God's ever-present being that was manifested as creation's existence. I sat and watched as Gabriel was created. God said, "This one I shall call Gabriel, and he shall be son of the coming of the dawn, bearer of the message of my light upon creation." There within creation amidst the light an angel walked forth from it. "And he shall bring the sunrise each day, and renew my light upon creation each day as well. This one I shall call Raphael, the son of the rising light." Then the angels of the principalities asked, "But from where do they rise each day? Where does the light of your presence go?" The angels began to stir nervously. "Fear not, my children," he said, "for my presence is always and forevermore, but creation is vast and my presence even more so. So that the immense greatness of my presence does not overwhelm and destroy creation, I shall confine my presence within creation's folds to be said to be only so long." Then the light of God, which was the spark of all the light within creation, faded, and as it did another angel stepped forth from the dimming light. "And I shall call this angel Uriel, the son of the twilight sky, the harbinger of the night, who shall one day be known as the angel of death. These angels will bear the rising and the setting of each day." Then the angel Raphael asked, "But how will we know when to perform these tasks you have given us?" Then another angel stepped forth from the light of creation. This angel shall measure the length of each day and determine the rising and setting of each day, and I shall call him Lucifer, son of the morning star, and bearer of the first dawn, the light bearer. He shall be the mightiest of all my angels, for he shall measure the time in which my presence does come and go within creation, and that presence shall be called the Holy Spirit. He shall be a vessel of its being and house the divine spark of my power, through which I shall work to bring about all these things. Thus he shall be one of 3 angels of creation. These 3 angels shall represent the eternal continuity of existence, each a vessel through which my presence shall work. But their names shall not be known yet, for it is not yet time for any to know. Until eternity unfolds to reveal itself, there must be set a counterbalance. There within the congregation an angel appeared among them, strong and as mighty in his ways like that of Lucifer. I shall call this angel Michael, son of the fading light. He shall have authority over Lucifer for a time until eternity is revealed, and measure the length in which the night approaches. Another angel stepped forth from the light as God spoke. This angel will be known as Azazel, son of night, and he shall measure the time in which my presence shall be absent from creation. Then the light faded completely from creation, but God's voice could still be heard saying, and this time where my absence from creation is found shall be called the darkness. The angels then spoke and asked, but Lord, where shall this measuring of all these things take place? And the Lord spoke as a flash of light appeared in the distance. It shall take place here on this world I have created, here among the vastness of stars, in the midst of your wisdom and divine enlightenment, and I shall call it earth. It shall be the greatest of all my works, for from it shall come life, and the virtue of my will shall be found upon it, and so too shall I create mankind, the greatest of my achievements. For one day I shall come from among them, and their works shall mold the very aspects of the Creator. For this most important task I shall make them in the likeness of myself, and impart a small portion of the divine spark within them all, so they too may become creators, like myself. To achieve this they must be gifted with free will to choose what they believe their purpose in life is for. The Lord turned to Lucifer and Michael and said, this task I shall appoint to you too. You shall guide them towards understanding right and wrong. That dictates the continuity of each of their lives and how long they shall each live. Since you are both equally as wise as the other, Lucifer, you shall show them the path that leads to destruction and how to avoid fall towards it, for it is against my will, and you are my vessel and thus closest to that which is my will and divinity, so you know above all others the details of this. To accomplish this task you too shall be given the gift of free will, the only angel to be given this gift and the only one that ever will. Michael, you shall be given the task to show to them the divine values that is my will for them to live by, that will guide them towards a life of righteousness and ultimately fulfill their purpose in which I have made them so specially for. That purpose is to evolve and become the greatest possible potential they each are capable of. For one day I shall shape and mold myself from their works, and it shall bear forth one day the unfolding of eternity. But upon Lucifer's appointment to the task that was given to him, he suddenly felt emotions that were not of God's will, feelings of resentment for Michael. During all this many angels were whispering among themselves as to the reason for Michael's authority over Lucifer, that maybe it was because God knew one day Lucifer would betray heaven or try to steal God's authority from him. This caused a schism in heaven and divided many angels from wanting to be associated with Lucifer for fear of this possible attempt. God, however, did not reveal the fact that to accomplish this task given to Michael and Lucifer, to display these principal paths between right and wrong, that conflict must occur between them in order for mankind to be able to understand the difference without having to experience them through action, for that would lead to their destruction. So the conflict between good and evil began here amidst the angels and within Lucifer as the seeds of the Lord's work grew. God, seeing the rising tension, said, "Come with me, Lucifer, let us go now to earth and create the life there upon it." And so they went down into creation, to earth, to create the Garden of Eden. And now we come to the creation of the earth. Without the exact descriptions but still adhering to the full details of what occurred, I shall go into the account of what I witnessed, nothing more, nothing less. The first day of the creation of the earth he sculpted the earth's core and its surface as he awaited the surface to cool, and that was the first day. Once it was solid to step upon, he and Lucifer stood upon the lifeless rock, and the Lord raised his hand to the sky, and clouds of moisture began to cover the surface, and the rain soon did come, settling the ocean into its place but not to completely cover the surface. While the deluge of water poured from the skies, he raised another hand and the lightning began to crackle across the sky. And this shall hold the skies into place and make possible the life to grow upon it. And this was the end of the second day. On the third day he spoke out to Lucifer and said, You, sleeping in death and wander in spirit, awaken from your death slumber and open up the little book and read it out loud word for word from Genesis, for you shall fulfill the reason as to why this book was never to be altered or its message changed. For this shall be my template by which I shall design the earth and the life upon it. I sat up from my comatose injury and picked up the small desk Bible, and as I read from Genesis, he parted the skies and set the orbit of the earth around the sun and set the moon into place, taken from the pile of asteroids that once sat where the earth now stood. This was the end of the third day as he set the day from there, night. On the fourth day he then calmed the storms so that they would bear the waters to the life that was to dwell upon the earth, above the earth and below it. Then he turned to Lucifer and said, Good, now I must make an anchor, a vessel, through which I shall bring the life upon the earth, and I shall do so from this tree, and it shall encompass the very essence of my will for that which the earth is to become. Thus a fig tree sprouted from the barren soil, and through this tree did he bring forth the vegetation above the earth and below the seas. This was the end of the fourth day. Upon the fifth day through the roots of the tree within the earth did he spread the forests and cleave the valleys, and did set the animals therein and beneath the seas, from every bug to every beast but around the tree that was the vessel of God he did bring the best of his works of fruits and life-sustaining plants, and the animals were not wild beasts but tame and at one with each other, as if in a unified understanding of what was transpiring. As he began to mold Adam, he asked Lucifer, How shall mankind hold himself together until he dries? And seeing on the edges of the riverbank we stood next to, Lucifer said, With this Lord, I have seen it before. This red clay can be used to sculpt things. It is found along these types of rivers' bottoms. The Lord marveled and said, Yes, brilliant, go and gather as much as you can. Lucifer gathered the clay, and the Lord sat and molded Adam from the dirt and did hold his form into place with the clay while it dried. Once it had dried, the Lord said, Now I shall breathe the gift of life into him, and he knelt above Adam and held him by the nostrils and breathed life into his mouth, and Adam sat up as if hazy for a moment, then stood unsteady at first, and the Lord did show him the garden and how to find the figs and fruits he needed to eat, and said, And this one I shall call Adam, he shall be the greatest of all my works here. I shall make him in their likeness of myself, for within him I shall give to him the gift of free will, just as had been given to you, Lucifer, the will to choose which path you shall take and not succumb to the natural reactions of carnal instinct. But unlike you who are an angel, mankind's time shall be set to only be so long, and shall be measured by the deeds of each man sown by their own hands. And then Adam fell into a slumber by the river. The Lord then reached out and made a copy identical almost to the rib of Adam, and then set the rib next to him in the sand, and there it grew like the roots of a tree, and a woman soon lay sleeping next to him, and he bent down and breathed life upon her, and she sat up as Adam awoke from his slumber. And this shall be your companion, and you shall stand together as though joined as one until the end of your days on the earth, until you return from the dust from which you came. The next gift I shall give mankind, the olive tree of knowledge between good and evil, and the emotion of love, for it is out of love to you, my creations, that I have made you for each other, and now that gift of emotion do I give to you, so that your bond shall be as solid as the earth that you walk upon. That was the end of the fifth day. On the sixth day the Lord then turned to Lucifer and said, On the seventh day I shall rest from my duties here for a while, and look upon all we have made. While I rest I shall appoint you to watch over Adam and Eve. Tell them that they can eat of any fruit in the garden they should choose, but do not let them eat from the tree of life, for the essence of my will ran through its roots as I laid the firmament of the earth, and if they should consume the fruit that hangs from its branches, then they shall surely die, for its knowledge is not meant for man to understand just yet, for in its fruit lies the gift of free will and the divine spark that can sculpt beautiful objects from the sheer will within them, the ability to create from within themselves. and for their eyes to awaken now to it would bring to them the knowledge of sin and would lead to their own death wrought by their own hands unknowingly. For now while my presence recedes from creation, Lucifer, as the steward of a part of the olive branches which is sin that shall be known to them when it is time, I shall task you with the duty of showing them how to procreate their seed so that they shall multiply and be bountiful. So that there are no evils that could become obstacles before you, I shall change you into a serpent-like form, and here in the branches shall you stay to protect the tree and explain to them the act of planting their seed. And let them not eat of the fruit of this tree. Upon the seventh day Adam and Eve did question where the Lord had gone. He said, the Lord has left the garden to check upon all he has done. Until he returns he has instructed me to tell you to eat of any fruit you should so choose, but do not eat from the tree in which I am upon now. Adam seemed concerned and uncertain of the serpent, and the serpent warned, stay back, Adam, for I am placed here to guard you from coming near this tree and have been given this appearance as a warning to you not to come close. Adam shrugged and wandered off to find where God had gone to. Then Lucifer began to feel strange, as though something else existed within him other than his own will. Now it had come to pass that while my body lay comatose, a dark spirit bound by voodoo magic had found me and slipped into me and so into the Garden of Eden. He took possession of my angelic form by his voodoo spells. I was unable to remember any of this until I encountered the spirit again later. Afterward I was able to know the temptation that Satan had spoken to Eve. Satan said, you have things so easy here. You can do whatever you want here. Then Eve said, no, that is not true. We cannot go outside of the garden, but we can eat anything we want. Satan grinned and said, anything you want? What about the fruit from that tree? Eve looked down at the ground for a minute and said, oh, that tree. No. We cannot eat the fruit from that tree. Satan looked curious. Oh, why did he say you can't eat that one, I wonder? Acting as if he had no clue. He said if we did then we would die, whatever that is. Satan got a concerned look and said, no, he told you that to trick you. He doesn't want you to eat it because if you do then you will become as powerful as him. Eve looked confused and said, no, I don't think that's what he meant by death. Whatever it was, it sounded bad. Satan looked in shock. Why would I lie? God put me in this garden to protect you, so why would I deceive you? That was all I could find out about his tempting of Eve and the fruit. I thought I would include this here to help make it as accurate as possible. What can be described occurred is that what Satan had attempted to do with the body of Moses after he died had happened to him. Something had defiled his body. Its hints of methods were what was first clear, voodoo magic, like that of the shrunken head rituals, and then Lucifer was given a glimpse into the plans of this spirit. He planned on using the life essence within mankind to take the blame of transgression against God's commands so that he could sneak away with some self-assumed power of God that lay within consumption of the fruit without repercussions for it. However, next I remember events unfolding was God returning to find Adam and Eve cowering behind some bushes and covering themselves in shame. He asked Adam and Eve why they hide their nudity in shame and if they had eaten from the fruit he had instructed the serpent to guard them from eating. Adam said no, he would not disobey his command, and God burst out in anger and said, do not lie to me, Adam, for you would not cover yourself in such a way if you hadn't. Then Eve spoke and said, it was him. The serpent told me to do it. God turned towards Lucifer and asked why had he done this. Lucifer tried to explain what had happened, and that is when God lashed outward, grabbing hold of the evil spirit moving between Eve and Lucifer. Satan seemed shocked he was able to see him, let alone grab hold of him. God said, so you thought you could sneak around in my garden tainting what I have made here as though I would not see you. God tossed the spiritual energy that was this evil trespasser down to the ground and said, since you want to crawl upon your belly like serpent, then a serpent to you shall be until I see that you have learned from your error. Satan tried to get trampled upon so that he could die and be rid of the form, but God said, no, you don't, You shall not transcend upon death into spirit, but instead when fatally injured you shall shed your damaged skin and it will peel away to reveal a new layer, thus never capable of dying. The serpent hissed and cursed at Adam and said, "He shall destroy all the generations of him to follow." And God replied, "No, for I shall take from you your legs so that you must crawl upon the earth, and I shall take from you your fangs so that you will bring no more harm to them. Now go and wander the barren wasteland beyond Eden until you have realized your error." Adam clenched his stomach and Eve held him as he got dizzy. Adam said that he felt strange as soon as the taste had set upon his mouth and into his belly, sweet like honey at first when in his mouth, but then it became bitter as grass roots upon his stomach, and Eve said she felt the same way. The Lord said, "That which you feel is the impact my presence is having upon your frail flesh forms. Mank is never made to be capable of understanding the ways of heaven, nor to be capable of fully gazing upon the entirety of my being. Becoming infused with my essence that coursed through its roots and fruit that it bears has caused you to become susceptible to death and shall end your lives before I had first designed them to. Thus has it begun with you and your generations that shall come after to slowly separate from my will and presence through the acts of sin, and it shall one day not only lead to your body's death but a spiritual death as well, from which you will be found no more in creation from that day forward. I did not wish for this to happen and tried to warn you, but you did not heed my warning. Now I must cast you out of the Garden of Eden, for sin is found within you. Where once the bountifuls of my greatest works and foods were at your arm's reach and you knew not of hunger or pain, now must you till the soil for your food, and the pain of hunger shall bear heavily upon you, Adam. Eve, where you would not have had to know the pains of rearing child, now it shall cause you great pain. Now be gone from me for a time and return here not, for the entrance shall be guarded by a great seraphim whose sword is wreathed in fire, and he shall cut down any man, woman, or angel who tries to enter. Lucifer, before I shut the gate, is there anything that you think the world could use to make it a better place from the grief it has been set upon the path to? It shall be my gift to you for your help." And Lucifer replied, "Yes, Lord, I can think of something that may help." He disappeared for a moment and then returned with the raw essence from within the seed of a plant. The Lord said, "What is this?" And Lucifer smiled and said, "It is from the seed of the hemp plant." God pondered it for a moment and agreed, saying, "Yes, it can be used for clothing, weaving baskets, layering, papyrus ... and to smoke and inhale its fumes asphyxiating themselves. That doesn't seem to be a wise choice, but nevertheless it is your gift." And God did set the last tree to be made through the tree of life, and what a last tree! Suddenly the entire garden erupted into vines, and the plentiful fruit trees shriveled to thorn bushes. God became so furious he literally erupted like a massive volcano of holy fire. "What have you done to my garden, Lucifer? Be gone from my presence. You are cast out onto the earth for a time while I fix this. Go and join Adam and Eve upon the earth and help keep them safe. Now go." And with those words Lucifer was exiled from heaven, forced to wander creation, not fallen from grace but from God's good graces at that time. Thus ends the seventh day.
Hello?
Is Mandy there?
It's 2 o'clock in the morning.
Did I ask you that?
Who is this?
Jay.
What are you doing calling here this late?
Look, fucker! I'm back in Woodland sides of Texas! So put your daughter on the phone and take your bitch ass back to sleep!
What did you say to me?
Motherfucker!
Where's your father at? Put your father on the phone.
Hold up. Dad! Hello?
Hello? I'm sleeping here in bed with my wife.
Wait a minute! You can't be in bed with your wife! I'm in bed with your wife!
You son of a bitch! I'm calling the police! I know who you are!
You do?
Yes, I do!
Well, alright! Tell him I said fuck off!
I'm getting off topic. The point is that each of the archangels seem to be fallen angels. 4 angels who are the 4 corners of the earth. Or in better translation, the conquerors of heaven and the ones who cast God down. I am putting together the rise of the general of heaven's army, Michael, after being scorned and cast aside for simply doing what they were made to do, and that is protect creation against a threat to existence. That is what drove Michael to stay Abraham's hand from killing his son, just as it enabled the fallen angels of the rebellion to rise up against him in the rebellion. You see the trending flaw I had mentioned earlier. I have discovered through my learning of the angelic ways that there is a flaw in the angelic design. It has to do with the sinless nature of our design. We cannot willingly commit an act of sin, but we can unwillingly be fooled into doing so. I think that may be the flaw. If they knew then what I know now, then it could have spared God being misunderstood by the angels in the first place. God would have understood the weak link in the chain, and he would not have been cast into the outer boundaries of existence by weakening his will with the heavy burden of grief and sins committed against Jesus. This experience while in the human form of Jesus, unable to fully comprehend the things of the divine nature, they convinced him to succumb to the fate of the crucifixion while forcing him to experience such sorrow, which caused a weak transition into his spiritual form. They then cast into the fringes of the still-forming universe, forcing him to exist outside of creation and never being able to enter existence lest his immense presence break it, or if any of us heard his voice it would shatter our frail mortal forms, or to even be capable of looking upon his face lest we burst into flames for recognizing him as some tormented individual someone may have bumped into and would reveal the truth of what this individual had endured that would ruin the lie they orchestrated to keep him secluded, probably keeping him trapped within the sigils of the Mark of Cain and Solomon's seals or something similar to them. Then came the reign of Uranus, or the entity behind the power of Uranus that is transitioning from king to king as they went, until the rise of Catholicism where they settled as the 4 archangels. It is alright my brothers, I do not hold ill judgment against you, for I can also sense an overwhelming emotion of regret and confusion as to whether this was all manipulated. No, for the most part one do not with the information I have so far. Others may have taken advantage, but they were all after the fact. For when Lucifer cast down his sword and renounced his allegiance, I could sense that he felt the same way. It was the final straw in a long list of building issues that climaxed with him there in that scenario. What is above, so too is it below, and if there are flaws within the angelic design, then there may be a flaw in creations as well. If you allowed mankind to see the truth of this and not hide it and let them see you overcome this obstacle, it may cause them to admire your strength and be more open-minded and understanding towards you. Michael, your lust for power that you hide as vanity must be realized before you can move forward. Ugh, you see, I told you it fills in many questions but starts many conflicts as well. So ciao bella till next time. When is a blood feud sated? At what point is revenge sufficient? Alastor might say never. Alastor may be an individual spirit of vengeance or a class of avenging spirits. The term is sometimes used as an epithet for deities like Zeus and Nemesis in their roles as purveyors of justice. What began as justice spirits evolved into feared spirits of questionable intent associated with vendettas and blood feuds. Alastor's revenge isn't just any revenge, it's bloody, scary, out of control, raging revenge. Euripides' Cassandra threatens Agamemnon by claiming the powers of an Alastor, and as she is a shaman, this may be no idle threat. Alastor is identified with the concept of children paying for the sins of their fathers, a common theme in Greek mythology. Although theoretically Alastor is a justice spirit, an Alastor is also a feared possessing spirit that relentlessly drives its host to seek vengeance. The spirit may enjoy the bloodshed. The clue is that the host displays obsessions and feels compelled to do what he or she does not wish to do or knows is wrong. Psychic disharmony caused by the trauma of the original crime renders the individual vulnerable to the Alastor. Thus when Orestes is advised by an oracle to avenge his father by murdering his mother, He initially questions whether this advice really came from Apollo or from an evil-intentioned Alastor. By the Middle Ages, Alastor was identified as a demon or a class of demons. Alastor, Avenger, in Greek mythology, the name for an avenging demon who follows the footsteps of criminals according to Aeschylus's Agamemnon. Shelley used the name for Alastor, or the Spirit of Solitude, 1816, his first important work. The poem is a condemnation of self-centered idealism. The name Alastor is also borne by a son of Neleus and brother of Nestor, married to Harpalice. Alastor, a vengeance demon named in Conde Plancy's Dictionnaire Infernal. In this text, de Plancy indicates that Alastor was known in the Zoroastrian tradition as the executioner. Although the Zoroastrian connection is dubitable, in the tradition of the ancient Greeks, Alastor was indeed a spirit of vengeance. Zeus was known as Zeus Alastor whenever he assumed a vengeful form. In Waite's presentation of the Grand Grimoire from his 1910 book of Black Magic and Pacts, Alastor is described as Hell's Commissioner of Public Works. He is also portrayed as an infernal judge. These attributions tie back to the work of Charles Berbiguier, a self-styled demonologist from the early 19th century. Now my outtake on this topic pertains to, sorry I got sidetracked with Charlie Daniels. Now what I can associate from this is that Alastor is either a rank of demonic angels sent to carry forth the command of God against the bloodline of the Nephilim, which would mean they answer to either Michael or Gabriel, and that this is the source and cause of the curse of Kronos, the curse of the Lee family, the manipulative group behind Aphrodite's evil ulterior design, as she was the harbinger of that curse and responsible for approximately 71% of children taken by foster care, and is the underlying cause that drive men to become deadbeat fathers no matter how true their intentions towards fatherhood may be at its beginning. For this demon or group of demons are the source behind the overwhelming force that drives them to act against their nature and supplants the bad habits that inhibit their role as parents. And this issue would be directly tied to the issues of the royal family as well, and has been an issue for many centuries. Well, some smartass went and altered the voice bot app that I use for my videos. Well, congratulations, all you have done is made it so my videos end unfinished verbally and viewers miss important perspectives that could even mean the difference between going to war or locating the ones really responsible. I'm not going to change a thing. Whoever you are that is responsible for this will fix it, otherwise the next series of unfortunate deaths can rest upon your conscience as having had your hand in its design, not me.
Yeah.
Humorous, quite humorous, yes.
Droll, very droll, yes. Whimsical, yes.
That is amusing, yes. Quite jocular, yes.
Yes, mirthful, yes.
Okay, that's enough frivolity.
What's going on over there? Jeffrey, what's that little chap doing? They're so funny. Little chap's been rubbing that stick for hours. Funny little things. Bloody hell! That fire, Jeffrey! I didn't say he could do that. I give the fire. What bloody period is this?
Well, I believe it's about 200,000 years prior to when they should be given it, sir.
We'll snuff him out!
Yes, sir. There we go, sir.
Some bloody nerve. Send them back into their cave.
Yes, sir.
All of them.
Oh, surprising.
Yeah, it'd shrink their brains again. Oh, for God's sake, what is it now?
I believe it's a rain dance, so we forgot to turn off the drought.
Really? All right, then. Give them some water, for heaven's sake.
Really?
Yes. They're parched.
It would be my pleasure, sir. God the merciful.
Get so excited over the teeniest little things.
You do, don't you?
Dancing in a circle. Do it again, Jeffrey. Spare some more. Look at the little loincloth. Go again. Do it again. Do it again. Do it again. Oh, too precious. Release the plague, Jeffrey.
Sir?
Release the plague.